Yes, everybody, Russ and the West Ham Network. Hope you are all safe and well, my friends. Good afternoon, Hammers fans. If I don't say it, people are going to moan at me. It's Hammers Headlines in association with the KUMB.com boys. Go check them out. Great content, great form, great chats, like-minded people with different opinions, all in one easy-to-use forum. There we go. Nice little plug. If you're new in here, give a like, give a comment, give a share, give a subscribe. It's two-game week, in it again, but 2 home games. Playing Olympiacos on Thursday in a must-win, I think, Europa League game, and then Nottingham Forest, the conquerors of Aston Villa. Everyone's telling me Unai Emery is the new messiah. So it's going to be a tough week for the Hammers. Tough week for Moyes as well. Spoke about this morning, Anton did a piece about David Moyes and his views. He's taking it all. At lunchtime today, I did a bit of news that Tim's putting together a list, not just of David Moyes replacements, but Antonio replacements as well, going ahead into January. And so, be interesting. I think one thing that came out for me was out of that Brentford game was he didn't seem to have any leaders on the pitch. And I think I like to think Alvarez is a bit of a leader, maybe just because his combative style, but it was massively obvious that we didn't have anyone on the pitch who, not massively obvious, but didn't seem to have that noble, or even Declan Rice, he'd shout at people, but at least you'd see that passion. Whether it's people listening to him is another question. But I think we'll be also looking at some sort of leader type thing coming up very, very soon. But let's talk about Hammers headlines. Let's talk about some lovely transfer rumours. Let's start with midfield. And let's start with the Napoli midfielder, Piotr Zielinski. Now, we've been linked to him before, and he's decided to sign a new contract or keep his existing contract, I believe. But according to Corriere dello Sport, West Ham are in line to sign the Napoli star, whose contract expires next summer. The publication, in its print edition on Saturday, said that Liverpool and also Inter Milan are eyeing the midfielder. He's 29, though, but he's made 14 appearances so far this season, registering 3 goals and 3 assists so far. He joined Napoli from Udinese back in 2016. He's made almost 350 appearances for the club. He's also a veteran in terms of the Polish national side, of 83 appearances, so he will be friends with Fabianski, you'd imagine. At the moment, he's playing very well, and so Napoli perhaps will be keen to keep hold of him and tie him down to a new deal. But the longer the situation goes on, his contract runs out in the summer, the more likely is that Zylinski will leave the Serie A club next summer, but the potential of maybe a little cheeky January bid to get some money out of him, if that makes sense, rather than leave for nothing in the summer. If that's the case for either, I think the Hammers will be foolish not to try and bring him into the London Stadium, that's for sure. Obviously, we will be competing with the likes of Liverpool and the likes of Inter Milan, but I think the only issue I could think of is because he's obviously Udinese and also Napoli, he may well choose to stay in Italy. So Inter Milan may be the better option for him personally, but we shall see. Maybe he wants to try, cutting his teeth in the Premier League. And if that's the case, I think West Ham and Liverpool will be 2 viable options. West Ham potentially, we're looking at maybe moving Thomas Souček on maybe in the summer. It's clear for me that we need a combative midfielder when Alvarez is not suspended, or is suspended rather. That's when we sort of need him. But maybe JWP sometimes in certain situations isn't the right person to put in for that particular game. Midfield of Alvarez and Zylinski as a 2 would be very, very, very naughty, very, very tough midfield for people to get through. So, but he scores a bit as well. He's a bit of an all-rounder, old Zielinski. So we'll keep an eye out for that one. Let's move on. Let's talk about a song we have signed. We've signed the Josh Aala, the highly regarded young Where's my thing gone? That's it. I've got it. So I had it written down. The highly regarded 16-year-old striker to a 2-year deal. We took him from Chelsea back in the summer, I think it was, and he's been banging them in. Really impressed ahead of in terms of this season. He's currently playing under Kevin Keane. He's 16-year-old. He's pacey. And he's been a standout player for the Kevin Keane side, and obviously the club were keen to secure his long-term future. And he has signed his first professional contract with the club, believed to be a 2-year deal with a 3-year option. And the deal will start on the 13th of November, according to XWHU employee. He's, as I said, he's been playing. He made the change from west to east, and he was quoted on the West Ham website saying, "I'm really enjoying it so far. I feel like I needed a change, and the transition from Chelsea to West Ham has been really good for me. I'm pleased with the way I've started too. I've received a really warm welcome from West Ham, and I feel like this club suits the way I play. It's all been very good for me so far. So good luck, Josh, and maybe we might have seen your first team, maybe." Or sit on the bench and do nothing, which is happening at the moment with Mbawa. But good luck to you, son. And as I said, bit of pace, 16, one for the future. Keep an eye out for him in the next couple of years' time. And lastly, let's talk about Rob Newman. Reports Claret and Hugh basically are claiming that Rob Newman's role within the Hammers is now under the spotlight. That said, there's been no decision made on the head of recruitment until Moyes' future is sorted out, I think, more than anything. The 59-year-old's role was sort of undermined during the summer when Tim Steindl came in, and he's obviously been given the keys to the castle, so to speak, in terms of the transfer decisions, by all accounts. It was suggested back in May that Moyes and Newman both can be done at West Ham, but obviously they both rode out the particular storm. But it seems it might be the end. The end is nigh for the former Man City scout. Although saying that, apparently it was Tim Steindl that told the board not to sack Rob Newman, as Rob was critical and highlighted his fantastic work in the partnerships he set up with the Brazilian sides. He was over in Brazil last summer or the January before then, setting up several different scouting networks, associations with a lot of the Brazilian sides out there, which could bear fruit, because obviously look at potentially going back in to look at Pablo Maia, go back out to look at Marcos Leonardo as well, and Pedro. So it may well bear fruit later on. It does seem that he's always, since Tim Steindl's come in, there has always been a question mark on him, particularly with Tim getting the full power when it comes to transfers. But clearly the fact he's still here, and he has been here for the last sort of few months, to me assumes that there was still a role for Rob to have. And I mean, if Tim wasn't even gone, he'd have already gone. But we'll see what happens. I think it's very much dependent on David Moyes' situation. In terms of Rob, obviously they have a very good relationship, and indeed, although obviously Steindl got credit for the likes of Kudus, Alvarez, Mavropanos, JWP was very much a David Moyes signing, and obviously the work that Rob's been doing in Brazil has clearly impressed him and means he's still hanging around at the moment. But we'll see what happens in the next few weeks. And that's it, my friends. As I said, if you're new around here, give it a like, give it a comment, give it a share, give it a bloody good subscribe. We'll have all the previews for the Olympiacos games and team news and things like that. And yeah, apart from that, take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble, keep the faith, my friends, and come on, you bloody irons. Irons!